Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Tolfer Talks. Today we're going to take a look at Kingdom Come. And, this is, I guess, considered a modern day classic. When it first came out, I had kind of a hard time with it. It wasn't my thing. Seeing this edition and the dedication to Christopher Reeve kind of helped me along the way, though. I think, my big problem when it first came out was, man, I can't believe I'm saying this. I didn't quite get the artwork. Alex Ross, until recently, was not one of my favorite comic book artists. Sorry, but I'm learning, though. I'm kind of starting to get it. But, one of the things I learned from my little bit of research I've done, I would have liked to have done more, but, library book. Alex Ross, this is basically his concept. It started off, and maybe it was those first few issues, or the first printing in the comic, in the floppies, was an Elseworld story, possibly. But it sounds like that was kind of his idea for an Elseworld story, and it turned into like this massive epic. And they needed to bring a writer on, and Mark Waid was the guy. So I suppose, the overall concept is Ross's, and then Waid is maybe more responsible for the dialogue, and then just ironing out all the rough edges, so everything kind of lines up and makes sense in the end. And boy, I tell you, I wish I had a co-writer on my comic, because I can see that's where things get rough, man, especially when you get into drawing. And you don't want to think about the story, you just want to draw. Or other than maybe you want to think, I've been thinking more in terms of scenes. But, this starts off with this amazing splash page and some verses from Revelation. There were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And, I think sometimes bringing Bible verses into comics can seem a little over the top, melodramatic, but this is pretty cool. Again, I guess my problem the first time I read it, the first half of it for me is just a slog. And then it took a while for me to get used to this water-based media. He uses the gouache. I would have guessed it was watercolor. Gouache is opaque, and it looks like he uses it a lot of times in more of a washed out watercolor, semi-opaque or translucent sort of way. So if we saw this in person, saw the actual artwork, this would probably be the white of the paper, and maybe he just washed in that shape, so there's more pigment down here, less pigment on top, and that's why this is darker, this is lighter, this is darker, this is lighter, and maybe this was a burnt umber or something, and he just brought in some warm tones. In fact, it probably is burnt umber. Burnt umber seems to kind of go yellow or green sometimes, depending on where you get your burnt umber. But, I don't know, now that I've gotten used to it, I'm saying this, and I can't believe I ever thought this. I wish I would have given it more time in the beginning. But, this is Norman McKay, kind of one of the main characters, who appears throughout the story as the witness to the events. And this we find out later is the Sandman. This is the guy that was quoting verses. He's going to pass away and leave his apocalyptic visions to Norman. And of course, all these figures were photographed, referenced by Alex Ross, which kind of gives it that photographic look. And so that, I guess for me, for a long time, up until basically this last read through of this, it seemed like this just wasn't comic book art. There was sort of this uncanny valley that happened, when things get too realistic. But sometimes it seems like for me, superheroes work better with black line art or just, a bit more cartoony. But, man, this is good too. So there's really great stuff in here too, like this planet, Krypton. Which is a restaurant. I suppose it's kind of like the Rock Cafe, whatever that is. Hard Rock Cafe, only for superheroes. And so what's happening here is Norman is taking a walk, and things have gone kind of crazy. Today's heroes, the kind of the sons and daughters, the next generation, is kind of more into it for the fight than for the whole idea of being protectors of human life in the human race. A little more selfish, maybe. Which is cool. I like the idea. I think I've always liked the idea. Again, it's just the art was kind of hard for me to wrap my little brain around for a while. But, some of this stuff, it almost looks like, I think when I first saw it, it looked to me like maybe Alex Ross should be doing, like florals or possibly pet portraits or, human portraits because of the water-based, watercolor-ish use of gouache. But, again, this is pretty amazing. The Spectre coming in through this, the glass window of a church to meet Norman McKay, the pastor of the church. And he asks the Spectre to explain to him what's going on. He said it doesn't quite work that way. And here we see Superman. And again, this is not our Superman. I want to say it's Earth 262 or something like that. You might want to Google that. But as we find out, Superman's kind of fed up with everything. And he's ditched out. And he's not actually in Kansas, but some kind of hollow deck version of Kansas. That seems to be, I suppose, in the Fortress of Solitude. But I'm not sure who he picked for a model for Superman, but he did a really good job. This guy definitely has the right features as far as I'm concerned. So the big problem kind of began with Magog. In this battle with the parasite, and it seems like Captain Atom was split open, which laid waste to the Midwest, Kansas in particular, but basically the entire bread belt of the United States. Yeah, and this is a really great flash. I think this is my favorite flash ever. So the way he chose to portray the Flash is even in a panel without a lot of action, the Flash seems to be vibrating between dimensions, which is kind of neat. Kind of a neat idea. And so this is kind of goes through how everybody is sort of, all these heroes that we're familiar with have kind of staked out their territory. Hawkman is in the Northwest. Green Lantern is in a self-made Emerald City somewhere in the night sky. And there's a lot of narration talking about how things have changed and how the gods of yesteryear are not the gods of today, and kind of whether superheroes are gods or whether they're human. And then we go to the Batman, who is of course human, and his chosen method for protecting Gotham seems to be these remote-controlled robots. Which is kind of neat. I don't know if that's been used before. I haven't been reading a lot of Batman in the last 20 years. But Norman wants to see the Spectre as an angel. Some being that will give hope, and the Spectre's not into it. It doesn't work that way. None of this works that way. Yeah, there's so much story here. I would have liked to have read it one more time, but you guys got to move on. But I think everybody should read it if you haven't read it yet. I was kind of surprised there weren't more videos on YouTube. People kind of paging through. And this is an example of, the new heroes just causing trouble. And Superman's back. Norman's there to witness it. But this is one of Norman's visions, and he sees it. The threat of Armageddon hasn't ended. It's just begun. And so I think what part of it is through this whole thing is we're supposed to be wondering, whether Superman's the answer or is he the end? And Batman, I guess, is the other. So is Superman some kind of fascist autocrat, or if he takes care of everybody and kind of, helps the human race move along safely, but takes away some of our free will? Or is Batman's way better? It might not be perfect, but at least the human race is standing up for itself. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar, and the 7 angels prepared themselves to sound. Okay, and so here we have, well, the breadbasket of the United States has been decimated, and so there's this unusually high reluctance of certain groups in the United States to let immigrants in, and this guy is there to, basically fight off boatloads of immigrants, which I'm trying to think. I mean, this is from 97, I think, maybe. I guess the immigrant question has been been with us for a while. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's Red Robin. So there's some pretty cool, just amazing scenes. I think this almost requires multiple readings, just partly because these thin borders. I found this panel, pages like this seem to read pretty easily, but a lot of these panels within panels, because of the narrow borders, make it difficult, I think, to suss out what's going on. And in this case, okay, we've got a beam apparently fired from, I don't know if that's the same, I don't know if it matters. Up here, it's the Statue of Liberty's arm. Okay, that reads pretty well. But then this panel is so narrow. I mean, I guess you can see that's the torch, but honestly, I don't know if I got that the first time. I don't know if I got a lot of this. And so the press conference saying they're back. And they're saying Magog will be dealt with if he surfaces, given the consequence of his actions in Kansas. See, Magog killed, murder, people lost their lives when he was trying to, in his mind, save the human race, save the world. And that kind of flies in the face of Superman's, his reverence for life. Here we are. Superman's trying to put the band back together again. He goes to Bruce Wayne's. Bruce Wayne's in the mansion. What's left of it? Yeah, all this is good. The dialogue's really great. I like the exoskeleton that Bruce Wayne is wearing. This kind of looks a little bit too much like Darth Vader. I think you could have done something else in there, but still pretty cool. But this is, Bruce keeps referring to Superman as Clark. Superman doesn't like it. Just the expressions on their faces. Really good stuff. And I'd like to know more about how he posed these people, his actors. As it seems like in how much editorial creative license he took. Because it seems like it would be really difficult to get just such perfect expressions from folks that probably didn't really have an idea of what exactly was going on in the scene. Think of how hard green screen actors have it. This would be even more difficult. And so then back into the fray, Superman and his gang taking care of business. Here's the Spectre and Norman. They're checking up on Lex Luthor to see what's going on. But really great Riddler. Great aged Riddler. Love Shazam. I'm not a big fan of Shazam showing up in other people's books, but there was when I was a kid at the local library, there was this like Shazam omnibus. It was all black and white. If I remember right, it was mostly daily strips. That's just how I remember it. But that was kind of one of my first comics I remember reading and just thinking, this is really good stuff. But I always seemed like Shazam and Superman in the same world was just too much. This book might have changed my mind. Okay, and here's Superman, and this scene is doing some more recruiting. He wants to get together with the new generation. Say, hey, I'm cool, I'm hip. What's with you guys? Join the team. And there's Oliver. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Love the Emerald Citadel. It's cool. The round table. Yeah, there's a lot of really great designs in here. And so now they're working on putting together a prison for all the bad superpowered people, the superpowered people that are maybe not sticking with Superman's agenda. They might be having a little bit too much fun. And what happens in this scene? Yeah, there's a lot going on. What are you doing back in Kansas, Magog? I saw the news footage of your last mission, and believe me, it will be your last. Well, look who it is. The Metropolis Milk Toast. I never left, Blue Boy. I never thought you'd go this far over the top. Yeah, you led 6 unstable powerhouses against the one pathetic parasite. An overkill gesture that murdered 1 million people. And, since I've started looking at word balloons, stuff like this is pretty cool. It really emphasizes 1 million people. I guess that was a big thing maybe still is, for Alan Moore. I've been reading a little bit about that in the blog, about how phrases are broken up and appear in word balloons. And I think it really makes a difference in the readability. So Superman says he's not afraid. Magog says, get out of town. It's kind of cool this is happening in Kansas. Wild West. Magog says, this is your fault. My fault. You're the one who got strung up on Main Street. And then this kind of goes back to what, the Joker murdered Lois Lane, among other members of the Daily Planet staff. And Magog took him out. Magog was acquitted, but Superman is so married to this idea of keeping of making human, that human life is valuable, that he thought even the Joker should not have met that fate. And in a human court, Magog was acquitted. Well, part of doing these, the cool thing about doing these videos is sometimes I think I understand what's going on in a book, and I don't really get it until I start going through it and talking it out. And so now the showdown. Superman says, "We're at war. An art that with one finishing stroke I finally mastered, but to what ultimate triumph?" Oh no, sorry. Jeez. Okay, he's saying we're at war. We need to get together. And this is Orion's. Oh, wait, I shouldn't have gave it away. Well, you can kind of see. This is a great scene, man. The first time I went through this again, after years, this was cool. I kind of forgot what was going on. Of course, at first you think it's Darkseid. And then boom. So we can get some great artwork. And he's in Apocalypse. He's asking for help incarcerating the super beings. That was why earlier we saw he was talking to Aquaman. And Orion basically says, "No, but I tell you, I can give you some folks that are going to help you out." I've done a little bit of work with watercolor and gouache, and I just find it remarkable that he can get this much detail in figures that are so small. Of course, I guess his paper could be 3 feet by 4 feet, but I don't think it was that big. And here, this is kind of a big reveal, or a big part of the story. We find Bruce is working with Lex. On to chapter 3. "And he cried with a loud voice, as when a lion roareth, and when he had cried, 7 thunders utter their voices." Another vision. Norman says, "Yeah, they're coming more and more quickly." So this is another really cool choice to make the Gulag, design it after the Legion of Doom's headquarters. This is brilliant. This is good stuff. This is fun. And so he had help from Scott Free, and I think maybe Big Barda, not sure, Barda, to design the Gulag. The idea being that Mr. Miracle would, being an escape artist, would know how to design an escape-proof prison. Man, this video is getting kind of long. I might try to slam through here. I'll give everybody a good look at each page. And this is great. This is a great dead man. And here's Norman among Shazam, the Guardians, dead man. I just love it. Yeah, this is, I think this third issue is where it really, I wish I would have stuck with it the first time. I think I would have maybe got it. This is a nice scene, lots of great dialogue. It's just kind of a cool scene, just seeing Superman and Wonder Woman hanging out. Talking about world peace. They're talking about power, responsibility. And now we're finding out that Lex Luthor has put Captain Marvel, Billy Batson, Shazam has been under his power with the help of this earwig. And he isn't really in control of his own actions. And on it goes. Got a little Martian Manhunter action. Yeah, and then here they're, taking a looking down on the Earth from the Emerald Citadel and just talking about parts that are clear, not clear. And this is when the Flash encounters Norman in a nearby dimension and pulls them into their space. And he says, judgment has come. Armageddon is here. Superman says no. And of course, at that moment, we find out there's a riot at the Gulag. And Superman wants to send minimal reinforcements. Diana's not having it. Yeah, and so I believe this is where we find out Batman is still on, he's not so down with Luthor. And they're going to haul off Lex and his gang to the Gulag. And at some point soon, Shazam is going to also be free. Diana's getting on her war uniform. Superman says, you're not going to need that sword. She says, well, what do? I don't have heat vision. I need something. And so I think that's kind of the gist of the whole thing, that sword. Superman's back asking Bruce for help. They're going to need it. They've got all the supervillains in one spot, and they're getting jiggy. They're going to break out. If they get out and they keep fighting, it's going to be the end of the planet, end of the human race. So we need to do something. We need to stop it. Yeah, this is pretty, yeah, the artwork again. Now that I've been won over to Alex Ross, I'm a big fan. There were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. This was my dream. See, I took watercolor classes in college, and I hated it because the guy that taught it was a true watercolorist, the kind of thing where opaque media was not allowed. If you had any white showing, it was the white of the paper. So all the highlights, you had to plan everything out before. Just wasn't my thing. So I think sometimes I look at this and I get traumatized from that, a couple semesters of watercolor. It was just not my thing. Anyway, epic battle. Pretty brilliant double page spread. Yeah, as the scriptures say, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. So a lot of, that sort of language throughout the whole book. So now this comes down to Superman and Alien, and Billy Batson / Shazam. So at least part human. And they get everybody in here. So I think that's Blackhawk. I think I could have, I think Alex Ross is another one of those guys that needs to do a book without text. One thing that took a while to get used to was these beautiful watercolor paintings, and then just plopped on the top, the word balloons, and it just seems like they don't work well together. And I know there's some other Elseworld books. There's a Batman book in particular I'm thinking of where it's a Victorian era Batman with gouache or watercolor, and somehow it all really worked well for me. I still think that's something maybe they could work on somehow. Maybe bring in some of the texture that you sort of see, that graininess. Something might help. So Bruce is here with a force from on high. It's too late. Things aren't going well. Yeah. So Batman, Wonder Woman, they're not getting along. They get above the clouds and they see that the UN has decided it's time to just end it all. They're sending in the nukes. They've got them all in one place. They're just going to take them all out. So anyway, Shazam, Billy Batson, is going to take Superman out just by repeatedly saying Shazam and bringing down the lightning. And Yeah, this is some good text. I hear the whisper of a pilot begging for forgiveness. Yeah, if you're about to drop some nukes on your home planet, I would think you'd be maybe torn up over the whole thing. Boom, Shazam. Superman's in bad shape. Shazam. Superman's still together. He's with it enough. He can put his hand over Billy's mouth. Yeah, this is all good text too. I don't know if I should read it. Fingers that can fuse coal into diamond, crawl across human bone, and in the hush, ears that can hear a cell divide. Pick out with chilling ease the scream of human rage. A wave of x-rays confirmed the bomb's potency. So it is time. So something's got to happen. Yeah, if the bomb drops, superhumans will surely die, but humanity will be spared their violence. If not, they will live on to fight a battle that will in time swallow the earth. So this is kind of where it all comes to a head. And so what's going on now is that whole philosophical sort of argument of Superman being an alien and being, omnipotent, basically all powerful, practically these days. Should he be saving the human race? Leaving everybody to feel fatalistic and kind of, what's the point? We got Superman. Or does someone that's at least, does Billy Batson, who is a human, does he take care of the problem? So this decided, and that decision is not for me to make. I'm not a god. I'm not a man, but you, Billy, are both. Yeah, so is, maybe kind of sloggy. I think the first half of this is. The second half is just brilliant. And of course, boom. Shazam takes out the nuke and leaves this wasteland of death behind. Man. Of course, it didn't kill everybody. And Clark is mad. So he's back at the UN. Looks a lot like the Legion building. I think it is the Legion building. And anyways, Norman talks him down. Of right and wrong, it was a gift of your own humanity. You never had to question your choices. In any situation, any crisis, you knew what to do. But the minute you made the super more important than the man, the day you decided to turn your back on mankind, that completely cost you your instinct. That took away your judgment. Take it back. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is crazy. Crazy good. Then basically, I think that's pretty much the end. That's what it's all about. Superman comes to his senses and realizes that, we just have to work this out. And then there's some good stuff in here. Here's Lex. And he's incarcerated now in the old Wayne mansion that's been converted into a hospital of sorts. Diana's earned her place as royalty back on Paradise Island. And this is the panel that really sold me. Clark is farming again. He's trying to, set the ecosystem in the Midwest in Kansas back to what it was. So they'll be growing a lot of corn and soybeans and other food that people can't eat anyway. Making ethanol. I don't know what they'll be growing. But Clark is farming again, which I thought was great. Norman's preaching. He's giving people hope, which is good. I think that's what pastors should do, give people hope. Now, this is great. Actually, after rereading the first two issues of the first half, I was about ready to give up, and I kind of dropped back and I looked at this. But this is Clark and Diana and Bruce having lunch at Planet Krypton. It's just hilarious. It's really funny. And, you can find out what happens here. But there's some artwork in this edition. If you want to know who every stinking character is. But, yeah, so this is a book I didn't think much of for a long time. I didn't get. A friend of mine, actually, here in town, she was really, really into Alex Ross and doing watercolors. And I have basically no in real life comic book friends. So I thought, least I can do is when I do have somebody around to talk to comics about, I could check this out, and have an opinion or be able to. Oh wow, man! There's so much in this book. Superman, Shazam. Maybe that's the dichotomy. That's the two sides of the coin. Even more than Superman and Batman. Oh, Batman's in here. But yeah, really, really epic. If you haven't read it, be sure to pick up a copy and read it. And pick up a copy of my comic. Actually, you can't pick a copy up right now because I printed up 100 books and I've already sold all but a handful, which I plan on keeping or at some point putting on maybe making part of a campaign. But I have more. I have like three. I'm working on the 4th issue right now. So campaign hopefully will be happening. Or I don't know. Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see how many signups I get. Anyway, hey, God bless. Thanks for hanging out. If you made it to the end, DM me, let me know. I'd appreciate any encouragement at all possible. All right. Have a great afternoon. Cheers.